Welcome to Bitcoin Live on Saturday. Today with me in the show is Mauricio Pommella. I hope I pronounced that right. Welcome to Bitcoin Live.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Nick. Pleasure to be here.
The pleasure is all mine. I love great illustrators, and I hope I'm not shorting you in any way. I mean that is the biggest compliment ever. I think you have like an eye for amazing detail. The stuff that I saw that you create, you got an amazing background there.
Thank you.
I love fantasy. I love sci-fi. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation. But before I do all that, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. So, hey, everybody. I am Mauricio Pommella. I am head of design by day and crypto artist by night. So, during the day, I'm responsible for creating digital products, apps, software, and I lead a design team. And at night is when I can sit down and focus on my art, focus on my personal journey, creating the works that do not involve clients or any third-party feedbacks. When I can do my personal work, put my creativity to practice, and I can have a good time creating some of the outputs you'll be seeing soon here. So yeah.
Is it an Italian name or is it?
Yes. So my heritage is Italian. The Pomellas are from Naples and the Aversa region in Italy. So yes, but I'm based in Vancouver, Canada.
Nice. Yeah. So I'm actually kind of curious about your inspirations, but I got an inkling what those might be. But can you tell us a little bit about the great artists that inspired you?
Sure. To me, everything started with sci-fi. So my dad taking me to the movies in 1977, going to watch Star Wars, and then after Star Wars, you learn about Blade Runner and Aliens. So growing that kind of 70s, 80s really set the foundation for my passion for science fiction and fantasy. Then during my teenage years, you learn about the heavy metal magazine, and eventually graphic novels and all the boom around comic books in the late 80s and basically 90s. And then that sets the foundation for all that inspirational work. So then as you start consuming comics and movies, then you learn about the artists. So in sci-fi, I love the work of Sid Mead, for example, as concept artists, and then Ralph McQuire with all the Star Wars concepts and so on. And then when you move into comics, then inspiration comes from Mobius with the heavy metal Hurlant magazine, and then other artists like Simon Beasley, Dave McKean, Sienkiewicz, and Sergio Topi is to me the master. So you see my work is pretty close to Sergio Topi, which is like the master playing with ink and the hatching style and playing with negative spaces. So that is, I guess, when you put all those names together and combine that in my brain, it's what how it fuels the output I've been creating, I would say.
And I also like Frank Frazetta. I saw you share him.
Yes, there's a lot of Frank Frazetta as well. Yeah, influences.
Yes,
I remember there was a time before focusing more on black and white art, I used to paint a lot. So I was more painting with acrylic inks, applying layer over layer, from dark to bright tones. So that was more like painted art. But then as I started leaning more and more towards comics, I was focusing more on the black and white aesthetics. Because I would say before getting involved with crypto, on the site, I was always creating and self-publishing my comic book stories. So I have my books. They are available on Amazon. You can check my Linktree later on for some links. But I've been publishing 2-3 books and creating my stories and writing and illustrating, doing the whole thing. So so that was the beginning with comics, and then comics led eventually to NFTs. So.
Oh wow! Okay, yeah. So that brings up a lot of new questions that I didn't thought about. But so can you tell us because I skipped it? But how did you get involved with crypto? Is it through NFTs or was it?
Yeah. So as a crypto artist, my journey starts at the end of 2018 when I was onboarded by Super Rare. But in general, my crypto story starts in 2017 because at my day job, we were invited to work on 2 crypto projects. So one, as a user experience designer and leading a team, I was invited to create two marketplaces. One for crypto mining, one to start selling NFTs. So in one platform, you would create your account and rent computer time to do your mining. And on the other, you would eventually collect your music industry related memorabilia and collectibles. So one product took off, became a unicorn, and the other sank as Bitcoin bubble exploded in 2018. So then investors got freaked out, and then they left, and the product was put into a halt. So that's when I learned about NFTs and crypto and the mechanics around it, and I learned about what is an NFT and the smart contract and the token, and how you can now lock one particular digital asset to be represented by a token. So that was 2017. And then in 2018, I was like, okay, this is really cool. And this has everything to do with my comic book work. In comics, usually what happens is an artist, after publishing the work, they put also the artwork for sale. They put in galleries, they remove all the speech bubbles, and they put the original artwork for sale in galleries. So
it's awesome.
When I was attending Comic-Cons to sell my book, people were approaching my table and saying, hey, I would like to buy one of your originals. And I was like, I'm sorry, because everything I do is digital these days. It's all Photoshop. It's a file. There is no original. So I was never able to sell an original. So when I learned about NFTs, immediately I thought, now I can sell those pages. I can sell that original artwork. And I was looking for marketplaces where I could put my art for sale. So in 2018, as I was looking for stuff, I couldn't find many marketplaces. I remember finding rare.io.
Yeah.
It wasn't super rare, it was rare. So there was a bit of confusion there, like what is rare, what is super rare? So rare.io, I found it. I put like 2-3 pieces there, but eventually the platform imploded and those tokens disappeared and everything was lost. So I don't count that period in 2018 as the beginning of my crypto journey. It's more like when I tokenized my first piece into super rare in January 2019. But in 2018, so I saw there was the data movement, there was rare.io, there was a few other scattered places, but everything was confusing to me. I had to learn about crypto wallets.
Yeah.
How do I onboard? So it was a bit bumpy until I found super rare in December 2018. And then after applying 2 days, I was accepted and they onboarded me right away to start selling my work. And then January 19, I put my first Genesis piece. And from there, it was a learning experience. So yeah, if you're there on super rare, you can go to all the way down to my Genesis piece if you want. Was the very first one. So there you go. Yeah, so that one, the Infuse It Man.
This one?
No, the one. Yeah. So that is my Genesis. So and then if you click there, if you can zoom in there a little bit, basically I suspect this is one of the very first comic book pages in the crypto space, if not the very first one. So prior to January 2019, I have found some comic book related content, but it was usually just a single frame with one speech bubble, nothing that I would consider like a full blown comic book page in a classic sense. And I think that one is probably the very first one. So very proud for me. And I love that scene when the robot is emerging and, like he's finally becoming self-conscious. And it's a super cool piece for me. So then from there, I start selling all the other pieces, still in that mode, trying to sell my original comic book artwork, the book covers and the pages as crypto art. So everything was okay in 2019. I was selling like 2-3 pieces, but then at some point it was total silence. Like I thought, oh, maybe that's it. Maybe there's nothing more here. I remember tokenizing these pieces along with Xcopy, Cody, Mattia Cuccini. So my pieces kind of living side by side with those great artists, and I thought, okay, there's something here. But then at some point, things slow down again, nothing much happening, not much action until the end of 2019. And then in 2020, what happens? Trevor Jones finds my work.
Yep.
Trevor finds my page and he acquires 6, 7, 8 pieces.
Wow.
And he writes to me. He's like, "Who are you? Where have you been? Why I didn't know about your work?" I'm like, "What the hell? What's going on here?" And then we became friends. So Trevor, to this day, we continue to chat. We are always exchanging ideas, and I continue to learn a lot with him. And he's probably my biggest supporter around my work. So that kind of
great taste. It's great taste.
Yeah, so that energy injected in 2020 was really that boosted me into all the way to this day, to continue to work on crypto. And that was probably the strongest message around. Maybe there's something here special. I need to continue to push. I need to continue to insist in selling my art in this space. And then by the end of 2020, I learned that that audience, that target around comics, wasn't really there. I remember people buying these pages, but they were not really comic book aficionados or into sci-fi. It was more like an experimental acquisition, or because I was an early adopter, an early artist in the space. But I never really saw my niche, my target, interacting with me in the same way I saw people in Comic Cons. So that led me to change my approach. So at the beginning of 2021, I decided to stop minting the comic book pages to focus on these kind of large vertical single compositions. So some of the art you see here in my background, but if you go to Super Rare, then you can see more of that, those pieces there. So I started putting these kind of large compositions, and I thought I need to have like a central approach here, like maybe a primary concept that guides me through a series of new illustrations. And I have decided to create the Archetype collection. So if you go back to the top of the page, you see these are archetypes I've been creating based on the classic archetypes established in the 15th century in northern Italy. So you're going to have the fool, the emperor, the empress, the pope, and everything I'm trying to recreate here is through the lens of science fiction and fantasy with a bit of crypto in the mix. So again, loving sci-fi, loving all that aesthetics, steampunk, with all the mechanics, the hardware, the cables and pipes. So kind of recreating those characters through those lenses, in sci-fi and crypto. Some of those pieces are more explicit around crypto, when you see the character holding a crypto wallet, or there's an Ethereum symbol attached to that. But what I also try to do is, for every art, there's some sort of a backstory. So when you read the description of each piece, the archetype is related to the crypto culture. So for example, if you scroll to the top a little bit more, you're going to see probably the blue one, the Pope. So the Pope is the teacher archetype. So he teaches around decentralization and the benefits of a decentralized economy. So he is, the preacher on the gospel of the decentralization. So, and that's why you see now the man attached to the machine, able to do, super crazy computational calculations and so on. So there's a lot of fictional crazy stories, but that enhances into the crypto world with one foot in fantasy and sci-fi, and with that kind of crazy, still attached to comic book aesthetics, I would say. But so that's where I am at the moment. So I'm pushing for more pieces. I hope to have a total of 22 pieces. I don't know when I'm going to finish that. So far I have, I think, 10 pieces. So I'm kind of halfway through. But I'll keep pushing and trying to, complete everything in the near future.
Wow.
Yeah. So
thank you for all that information. That's awesome. And I know you're like a real artist. That's probably also why you caught Trevor's eye. I saw this tweet that you put out, and I wanted to ask you about the creative process, of course.
Sure.
And you did this one, which is really nice, where you
amazing.
Sort of
Yes.
Because for people, for the untrained eye, it looks maybe just like another picture.
Yes.
But when you see the amount of detail and work that goes into it, it's crazy. So
exactly.
Can you walk us through it?
Sure. So what over time I learned that by simply publishing your art, it's not enough. Usually collectors are buying the art and the artist. So it's important to understand the process behind the work, understand the journey and all the challenges you have to face, and the struggle to accomplish a particular piece. And to me, that's not a problem. I really enjoy the process, sometimes more than the final product. I really enjoy, going step by step and then going from nothing to something that is really complex and robust. And what you see here is usually a thread I'll be creating at the end of every piece. So
Nice.
when I publish a new piece, I will also be providing a bit of a backstory about the sketches, the ideas, the failures, and how you start setting the composition, where you want to drive the observer's eye from top left to the bottom right. And then you talk about the composition and the spacing. So as you scroll down, you see I'm describing every part of the piece. So here, for example, is the piece we're looking at is it's called Justice. So she is, the representation of, justice for innovation, decentralization, and fighting against all the injustices we see in this space. So
She's busy. She's very busy.
yes, exactly. And then as a dame with her armor and everything, I decided to inject a lot of steampunk elements, a lot of hardware around her armor, but it still she looks like somehow like that medieval, has the medieval armor aesthetic. And as you keep moving from that image to others, you see I'm describing the process across the head and the body and the armor, and then going through all the textures and the hatching. So there's a short video there where I'm going through all the hatching processes where you create those micro textures.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Yes.
I mean, the amount of detail that you put in these pictures is insane.
Yes.
I mean, it is incredible how much detail there is in this.
Yes. So because it's my work, I'm setting my own deadline. So usually a piece of that, as I told you, I have my day job. So there's only the night shift to work on this. So I'll be spending an hour or 2 hours per night. So a piece like that would take probably a full month of work. So,
Wow.
but I'm not in a hurry because to me, it's quality over quantity. So I really want to make sure everything is perfect. I want that piece to go live and then age really well. I want to see that piece 10 years from now and still think, man, that's still looking good. It's still great. And it still feels good. So it ages well, right?
Yes. So it's a work of love, a labor of love.
Yes,
And you could
yes,
hang this above your bed or wherever you want to hang it.
absolutely, absolutely. So it's beyond client work. It's beyond getting feedback. It's just me and my world, and and my techniques, and going through this personal journey where I think I'm getting better and better as I move into especially in my latest pieces. I'm really proud of all the work and complexity I'm putting there, because I realize I have to do what I have to do with no rush. There's no rush to finish. And then you see here, step by step, adding more and more layers, then colors, then the brightness and the dark shades and the
Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Exactly. So playing with those color codes and try to set a color palette. You'll notice if you see the whole collection, every piece has a particular color palette, right? So it's very harmonic, and that is intentional. That's on purpose. One is blue tones, the other is red tones, to make each piece unique. And here, as you keep going, at the end of each piece, what I'm gonna have is this really strong black and white piece and the full color piece. Because I'm trying to sell these pieces as one-on-ones, I'm basically selling the color version, and that color version also has a bit of animation embedded in it. So I've been trying to animate some small areas, injecting some micro animations. So this is not a JPEG. You're not buying a JPEG. You're not buying a static image, a PNG. You're buying an MPEG video, and that is because I am always injecting some animation. So if you go to the next step, I guess there's a final step where the sword, I guess it's animated in this piece. So yeah, so I was animating the sword. So it's a flaming sword. I think it plays in the next one. So then, yeah, if you, yeah, that piece, yeah, if you hit play there, yeah. So if you enlarge that, people will be able to see the flaming sword. So that is, a flaming sword is a symbol of holiness. It's a symbol, usually heroes of light are using flaming swords. So really to reinforce that idea, justice in crypto is sacred, and that really enhances the art and adds an extra touch. So it is still a static piece, but with a tiny bit of animation just to make it extra special. So, and I've been doing that across all the other pieces. So every other archetypes you see, it has something animated, something that moves, and something that adds an extra value to the piece.
And do you have like a favorite archetype?
I really like the chariot. If you go back to super rare, it's the one with the motorcycle.
I see it. I'm gonna pull it up here.
Yeah, it's yeah. So if you enlarge that, that is really probably my favorite to date, because I love the animations around the cheetah. I love the blood moon with those moving textures, and also the whole complexity around the motorcycle and the cheetah. In this piece,
also like a sense that it's an ode to Japanese?
Yes,
because of the
yes,
red and the white.
exactly. But also, I was injecting some Egyptian designs in the mix. So, for example, her helmet, I was looking for Egyptian helmets, and it's very oval, very big in the back. So, if you look at Egyptian helmets, and her helmet is very much there, the Egyptian aesthetic reference. And with the cheetah as well as an animal represented in the Egyptian kind of paintings and stuff, and everything to tell a story about speed. So the chariot is about speed, is about entrepreneurs and innovators who are at the forefront of the crypto space. Those guys are the ones that are fast moving, ahead of the pack. So this piece celebrates that, right? So innovation and speed. So as you can see, it's not very clear and not very explicit, but always has a sub-layer that tells a story that celebrates the crypto culture.
Yeah, it's really amazing. I mean, you could scroll through your work for hours and
Thanks.
be mesmerized by all the amount of detail that you put in there, and the backstories that you also put in there.
Yes.
Because basically, you just mentioned that you have a comic. Could you tell us a little bit about that comic that you're creating, and is it also connected to the way that you use NFTs or about
Yes,
NFTs?
I think yes, absolutely. So right there, the website you're looking at, what is that website? Is the
This is Cryptoart.
Yeah, this is Cryptoart. So at the beginning of my crypto journey at Cryptoart, I think I was among the top 100 artists around 2018, 2019. Now, if you look the rank, I'll say like I'm like around 1,000, 2,000 down below the rank. But it was a great website to measure my performance and track my history around sales and the evolution. So I love that website. But anyways, back to comics. As a sci-fi aficionado, I love technology. I'm always keeping an eye on technology in the real world. So for me, for example, starting my career in design and advertising around 93, 94, I remember going from traditional design where you're using letraset and creating illustrations by hand and storyboards by hand, moving into desktop publishing. So when the first Macs arrived at agencies, I was using Quark Express, and then around 94, 95, I bought my first US robotic modem. I learned HTML. So I've been living every single technology revolution we have since the early 90s. So I'm always keeping an eye on technology. So now it's like I don't know, SpaceX launching rockets to colonize Mars. So that passion for everything technology is always permeating my life. And I try to translate that into my comics. So to me, in my stories, what I dream is a world where humankind one day would thrive through the solar system. So we'll colonize the entire solar system. We'll have bases on the moon, Mars, Europa, and we'll establish a solar economy.
It's very close, I think.
I hope so. I hope we have bases on the moon and Mars pretty soon. We'll see. It's not impossible. I think it's achievable if we don't have a third world war before. Yeah. So, but I really hope to see society thriving and living a time with abundance. We don't need to mine Earth anymore. We won't have to mine on Earth. So we're not trashing our backyard. But I really hope we can mine the asteroid belt. We could have infinite amounts of resources to colonize other planets, other moons, and without destroying Earth. Earth becomes like a sanctuary, holy place we preserve as the cradle of humankind. And then that is the stellar society, where we thrive through the solar system. And then, who knows, evolving from there with infinite amounts of energy and minerals and resources, then we start jumping to the next star. Maybe Alpha Centauri is next. And then we become this kind of a galactic society. So from stellar, we go from planetary to stellar to galactic. So yeah, that's my dream, and that's what I put in my stories. So
that's the backdrop to your stories.
Exactly.
And can you tell us sort of the lead character or sort of the plot, or would you be giving too much away, or sort of?
Well, I would say I have 3 comic books out there. One is about teleportation, so people can teleport from one place to another around the world. So relationships emerge, like the girl lives in Japan, the guy lives in Spain, and they start dating, and there's a bit of a drama, and then the drama, extrapolates. So that's transmit, the red one. So the story extrapolates where the relationship goes sideways, and the whole teleportation, becomes a key point to make the whole thing to get really bad. So, but technology basically, permeates the experience and sets the background for the relationship problem. So
is it like Cronenberg's The Fly?
Yes, exactly. Nice. So what happens is, no matter where we are, on Mars, on Earth, if we have teleportation or not, we are humans. We're still dealing with our normal problems. We're talking about relationships and jobs and frustrations and happiness. And I just want to add technology as the background for these human moments. So we extrapolate. We can create crazy situations where something ordinary becomes extraordinary, right? So that's my premise across all the stories. So, and then after Transmit, I start creating binary noise. So there's volume 1, volume 2. These are anthologies. These are collections of 3 short stories each. And when you read all those short stories, you see there's a larger arc connecting everything, right? But I would say it goes from machines becoming self-aware to space mining to, families being reunited. And I would say there's a moment, for example, in Binary Noise Volume 2, the yellow one, where the couple, they're basically solar farmers. They're taking care of satellites around the sun. Now the sun is fully surrounded by, kind of this Dyson disk, I guess. And we're kind of harnessing all the energy from the sun and redirecting to other colonies in the solar system. So they're working on the maintenance of those satellites at a low orbit close to the sun. And then they start discussing, they start arguing, the girl's pissed with the guy, and what could be a normal conversation in the kitchen now takes place in a low orbit around the sun, and they're trying to dodge from solar flares and to don't get fried during their intense arguing. So that is, I think, a way to extrapolate ordinary cases, but making the story interesting and engaging and aesthetically interesting. So that's what I've been doing, and it's been a lot of fun to attend Comic Cons, have your table, sell your books, and people coming to you and open the book and say, "Dude, how did you do this?" And
I can imagine. I would probably be one of those fans. And how do those NFTs feature in your comic book?
So, well, as I said, some pages of those books you were just showing, those pages became NFTs on Super Rare. So, and those pages were there for sale from 2019 to end of 2020. And I thought the comic book fans would be there to collect. but they are not. I don't know if they're coming yet, but I learned that the majority of my collectors are primarily crypto investors, people who were, having, extra income to spare, and focus on art, but primarily to celebrate their crypto victories. So, and that's why I think it's important to pave the culture around crypto art to really celebrate crypto. And I thought the Archetype collection will celebrate crypto. It will be less around my sci-fi storytelling, and now to celebrate decentralization and promote the whole crypto culture for a larger audience. So this is beyond the comic book niche and comic fans. This is now to crypto collectors, crypto investors, and those who appreciate art in a more broader sense, without compromising the quality of my ideas, creations, not losing the foundation around sci-fi and fantasy, right? So
you could at a later time turn those also in comic books.
Yes.
But have you ever thought about sort of NFTing your whole comic book?
I have thought about it. For example, if we colonize Mars, which currency are we going to have there? The US dollar,
very good
Bitcoin.
question.
What is the economy, or what is the currency there? The Martian currency. So these are things we can think about for our next story, for a future comic, where you can inject crypto in a more realistic way. So by the time I was working on Binary Noise, crypto was just starting, so I wasn't able to inject in the stories, right? But I really think now, with more understanding of what is the blockchain and how we document all the transactions, we can have the opportunity to tell stories around that in a more explicit way. So
I totally agree, and that's those are ideas that I often think about. The galactic money. I mean, it's not going to be paper money or gold.
exactly.
Those are not valid candidates. So it will be some kind of crypto, and it will probably linked indirectly or directly to Bitcoin. So these are the great topics. And I wonder, because you already mentioned a couple of these things, like interstellar civilization and galactic civilization. So are you in any case also following the UAP stories?
What are those?
The UFOs. So
the UFOs.
Yeah, you got these big congressional hearings.
Oh, the UFOs. Yes. Well, I again, I love Spielberg, for example, Steven Spielberg with Contact of the Third Kind, and E.T. and I love all that stuff. So I follow sometimes, especially when there's military files leaking, where there's a video where they're tracking a particular UFO, and you see the speed of that thing flying and so on. So it's super interesting. I would say never to those things. The universe is a very, very big place. And if we are here on Earth, I'm sure there's somewhere else, another planet with conditions to create life. And what if those civilizations are out there, and eventually we'll make contact. But the thing here is, what worries me is, what if they find us and they are a way more advanced civilization, and we are now the locals, the natives, now being colonized by this external force, and are they going to be friendly or not? So I don't know. That worries me about. Sometimes maybe being under the radar is a good thing.
Absolutely.
So I don't know. But I love the idea. I love the idea of having life elsewhere. We're the living proof of that. So I think we may have billions of other civilizations out there. It's just a matter of maybe they have emerged and disappeared billions of years ago, and now it's our turn, and then after us we'll have another one elsewhere. So because the universe is so big, it's hard to synchronize all these civilizations during the same kind of time period, and being aware of each other.
But it sort of helps you sort of get new ideas and broaden your horizon, about thinking about possibilities and all these different kind of scenarios. Yeah. And you already sort of mentioned Alien, which is one of my favorite space horror movies of all time, like Alien and Aliens. Everything after that was, of course, a little bit disappointing. But I also liked Prometheus, and Prometheus has this really nice idea of sort of the seeding of Earth, and that these Promethean beings sort of
The engineers.
created mankind, the engineers. Yeah.
Yes, no, I love that. I love the idea of a prequel with the engineers. It's too bad now Fox is changing their route. They thought the engineer thematic is too complex. They're going back to the xenomorphs, and I think they're brewing one TV series and a new movie, but it's completely disconnected from the engineer narrative. So I was disappointed with that because I love the engineer narrative.
Yeah, me too. I thought it was brilliant, and I actually also like the second part, even though they cut too much out of the movies.
Yes,
I think it would have been better if he could have left it as the vision of the artist himself, right? It's a shame that they often sacrifice the vision of the artist for commercial ends, or
exactly. So yeah, there's a fun balance there, I guess, for the studios, right? The studios, it's all about the investors, the executives, and what brings profit to them. So it's less
target
labor of
audience.
love, and it's more about profits and return. So it's complicated, right? So that's why I love a lot of indie content as well, indie publishers, independent comic book creators. So I love adventures and characters that don't really need to have nothing attached to a studio or to a corporation. So the creator can go free.
And that's also what you said, like, being on the beneath the radar, right? One of the things also with crypto, it's now getting above radar, but when it wants below radar, it's sort of like this Wild West. It has also very negative sides, but also very positive sides. And I think if you're like an artist like yourself, you don't compromise, right? You don't want to compromise your art. And that's also when you can sort of stay below radar in that sense, that you can sort of do whatever you want. You're completely free. But if you have to sort of cater to the taste of a particular audience, then, some people above you might say like, oh, we have to put more of this in there or more of that, which is really sad, actually, because you make the art less because of it.
Absolutely. And for me, in my day job, I'm already dealing with large clients and stakeholders, and I am designing things and receiving feedback all the time. And then you need to adjust to their expectations and, to the data and the metrics, and follow what the system overall is telling me what to do. So that's fine. I mean, I love design, I love user experience, and I love the products I've been working. But when it comes down to the personal side, to my personal artistic side, it's less about we and it's more about me. It's now about my struggles and my journey and my process, and my personal adventure, where I see that almost as my therapy, as my escape from the rest of the world. After you put kids in bed, everything's quiet at home. I can sit down, I can focus on my art, and then you see the pieces you have here. We've been discussing. So it gives me a lot of pleasure. It's my therapy.
Put your whole soul into that single piece, and you make what you want to make, right? So what pleases you, and once you do that, other people will see the love that you put into it, and that it's completely unique, like it's completely yours.
Exactly.
And there's nothing else like it because it's yours, right? So, and that makes it valuable to other people.
Exactly. So I'm having a great time creating those pieces. If we have some sales along the way, even better. If someone supports me and appreciates the work, even better. And that's how it's been. So I would say it's not a super, fast career in crypto. It's a steady, consistent journey. So I would say, no, I'm there. I'm in this space for more than 5 years now, moving into my 6th year, and that's what I want to show people, that I am here for the long term. I'm reliable. I've been very professional, and I'm not here as I'm not following the hype. Even my style, for example, I don't think my style is the most appreciated in the crypto art space. There's a lot of other stuff that people are gravitating towards, but I would not sacrifice my vision and what I want to do chasing sales. I think stay loyal to my vision, and I hope that eventually people will start learning, appreciating that, and then the tide would change, right? So It's not an overnight thing. A lot of people don't like my stuff, and I know that. I see that. But I'm here. I'm here, and I'm pushing what I believe is great. So, and I thank you for inviting me to chat today, because clearly, Nikki, you enjoyed what you saw. So that's awesome.
Oh yeah, and crypto is like a roller coaster. I mean, we know many NFT artists who were doing really great at some point, and now they're sort of despondent and in despair. Some left completely, right? And I try to tell them, like, it will pick back up, but it can be really harsh and cruel. I mean, also as an investor, right? You have to really, those bear markets are really, brutal. They can be.
That's a
really
good point.
brutal.
That's a good point. And from my side, what I'm trying to do is to preserve value as well.
Yeah.
Add value to my pieces and grow that overnight. So with my art, I'm trying to create a special class of assets that people can collect, but eventually retain value. So in 5 to 10 years, the art will still look good. Value, we're retaining the value. So I'm not dumping my price, my floor price. I'm not sacrificing that. So I'm putting art for sale. I'm setting my price. It really is aligned with my price floor. I'm not dumping values. I'm not letting my previous collectors frustrated, and because otherwise, I don't want to be unreliable here. I don't want people to say, "Hey, I paid X amount of dollars, X amount of ether for this. Now he's dumping that price. What the hell? I invested a fortune on that guy." So I really don't want to make those collectors upset. I want to go from my price floor and up. So if you're going through a bear cycle now, so be it. I will survive. As I said, I have my day job, so I'm not dependent on those sales, which
plus sort of the art that you make, because that's another side of this story, is because you love the art that you make, so you don't even care about the money, because it's, like you said, it's therapeutic. So you're gonna make them anyway, right?
I will. Yes. Yeah. To me, the goal is to complete the archetype collection. So that's my goal for now. And as I was saying, so I'm not dumping the price, which means it's from the price floor and up. And I do hope after the bear cycle, as we move into a new bull cycle, with people making profits and everything, they will be able to go back to my art and say, hey, now I can invest, now I can get a Pommella in my collection. So that's my hope.
And I think it will happen. And I think that in this cycle, there's something in addition to the normal cycle, with the bear and the bull, because the world is also on fire, right? So that makes people even more anxious to part with their money than they usually are, right? Because you need even more sort of to protect your family and whatever it is. And hopefully it doesn't come to that, but that makes it even more harsh than it normally is, of course, that people are more protective and more guarded.
Exactly. So I'm building. For now, I'm building. Yeah. I'm creating. I'm not, upset or frustrated. I'm just building. I'm focused. I'm on my mission. And I think when the time is right, the opportunity will emerge again, and I'll have those collectors back.
I think it will. And then as soon as Bitcoin starts booming, and I think it won't take very long, then you got some very rich collectors out there who will probably be very happy to buy one or two of your amazing artworks.
Yeah, and another thing, I don't know if you have noticed, I don't have editions. I don't have editions. I have only one-on-ones, and I hope to have some editions at some point in the near future, where other people that appreciate my art but don't have necessarily that amount of ether can collect at a much lower price. But something apart from the archetype collection, something elsewhere in another platform. But I would love to give the ability for others to collect my piece at a lower value, but for editions, static artwork. So it's not as grandiose or glamorous as the one-on-ones on Super Rare. So that is like full color, animated, one-on-one. So the edition should be something more simpler, but a larger amount of copies, which then dilutes the price.
Yeah, which makes sense, because I mean, if you put like a month of work in one piece like that, it's yes. Understandable that you wouldn't just give it away. And you're on many different platforms. I saw it's a Foundation, Rarible. It's I think
Async. I have a piece on Async. I remember there was a piece on Async where you could buy 6 or 9 different pieces of the art. So you could collect the primary character or the hardware or the background. So, and different collectors turning on and off those pieces, and the piece used to change, could change during the day. So that was really cool. It's too bad async has been sunsetted now, and but I have really good friends coming from that platform.
Yeah, and it's also an experience and a journey, right? And then some of these platforms might fail, and that's also why it's good to to spread it, to diversify on different platforms.
Exactly.
I actually, because one of the things that I really wanted to ask you, because I know you're also into fantasy, you probably know Ralph Bakshi, right?
Not really, but do you have an example there or something?
Yeah, I do. Because well, he actually he did Lord of the Rings, like the original.
Okay.
But he also did Fire and Ice. Maybe you know that one. That's this one. It's from 1983. But he also did Cool World, and he did.
Yes. Okay, I saw the film. Yes.
He treated. Well, I thought maybe you were familiar with it because
Yes.
that I wanted to
I
set the
watched
record
that.
straight.
Yes.
But it's it's one of my favorite animators, and he used these really gorgeous backgrounds, like they were sort of hand painted backgrounds
Yes.
for Fire and Ice and Lord of the Rings, and
And
then
the animations are perfect because
yeah,
they used to shoot live, and then they trace on top of
rotoscope,
the live
yeah,
action, and then the animation looks perfect.
yeah, it was absolutely gorgeous, and I think I watched Lord of the Rings, his film, like 20 times. Actually, I recently saw it again, and it's still amazing.
Yes, these
But
things
yeah,
become classics, right?
yeah,
So they
and that's
age
the nice
well.
thing because this is like real illustration, right? And for example, with special effects, some of these modern movies, which are quite nice, right? I mean, sort of the Marvels and stuff. But after a while, they become very like they got a formula. You see through it, and there's nothing much around it. And then as soon as the special effects get an upgrade, which happens quite often, then the whole thing falls apart, right? Because then the graphics are
Yeah,
awful to look at, and there's no story, there's no character, there's nothing.
exactly.
But with illustration, it stays good, it stays fresh, it's
Oh,
timeless.
yes. And I think a good story is always more important than the visuals. A good story can last for ages, but if it's a poor story with a great visual, it won't last. That won't be sustainable. The movie will be criticized. People will hate it. Just eye candy is not enough to sustain a good storytelling, I would say. So it's a mix of great narrative with great art. When you merge both, then when you have greatness.
Like Mobius.
Yes. So Mobius, he was always working with great writers. So, for example, with Jodorowsky for the Inko, I love the story and I love the art, and that what makes the piece timeless. So
Yeah,
that is the perfect balance. That's what I wanted to achieve. So great stories, great background stories with great art, and still in the film conversation. I have two brothers, and they both work in the VFX industry.
oh wow.
And we were talking about Sora yesterday, right? So OpenAI announcing Sora and all the videos and stuff. And I was talking to them and said, "Hey guys, so what is this? Game over now?" And they're like, "Nah, it requires still there's a lot of detail. There's a lot of small pieces that you need to discuss with a director or a director of photography. If they say change this angle to the other side, you can't do that because you don't have all that finesse and the control in the AI. Or you can create several scenes, but the light doesn't quite match from one to another. So maybe for small indie productions, yes, we're going to see a boom in indie production, in the film production, in stories, short stories probably. But for the large productions, for the large studios, it still requires a lot of finesse and very granular attention to detail that you cannot have that with the current tools yet.
Yeah. So how long do you think, how long do they think it's away before we also arrive at that stage?
I would say Now we're moving into, well, we had AI art, which is like static imagery being created. We go from really, really rudimentary visuals to something that are now getting perfect. And now we're going to go through the same cycle with motion AI. So from rudimentary animations to now these kind of a hyper perfect realistic things. But the way you control the variables, the variants to compose that art is not like a piece of software where if you have a 3D software, you can rotate the object, you can change the light, you have all the variants at your fingertips, you have total control. With AI, you don't have that. You're sort of guessing. You put the prompt and you hope, fingers crossed, the output will be great. Or you keep refining and refining and refining. That is not ideal if you are in a studio, right? So if you're dealing with other people and other ideas and dealing with other brains and directors of photography, it requires a more precise tool to change those variants. So hopefully that will continue to grow and evolve. And I think, we're moving into an exponential curve. Okay, we're at the base of that curve. When we go vertical, you're gonna have like weekly, revolutions and weekly new things. So the key here is to learn to survive on that. You're not gonna lose your job for AI. You're gonna lose your job for someone that knows how to use AI better than you. So that's why we need to keep open-minded and keep testing, experimenting. I'm trying to keep my art as pure as possible because my personal journey, it's a personal struggle and personal journey. But outside that space, at my day job, I'm using AI a lot for data analysis, strategy, intelligent document processing, generating code, and for animation as well. Even After Effects now accepts lines of code and math to animate. So that surrounds my daily job. Right.
Then it's an interesting question also, because you're using it to create art also, but you're also using just the old-fashioned, I wouldn't say old-fashioned, but the classic way.
Yes.
So how does that feel like when you compare the two? Is it
I think I'm trying to keep mine is like 100% organic, not Mecca, just Orga. So because again, it's my therapy. It's to detox from corporate world, and I have my vision. So that's me, my technique, my craftsmanship. I hope collectors find value in that as well. While we'll be surrounded by AI art, and we'll be surrounded by a lot of noise. There will be a boom in the creation of visual assets. We'll be surrounded by noise with some pockets of excellence.
Yeah.
And I hope people gravitate towards that excellence. So I'm not against AI. I love technology, as I said, from sci-fi to the stories, to the arts, to the tools to survive in my career with design and advertise. So you need to learn new techniques. So AI is another tool. So I think we're going to have like a massive explosion on everything AI. And at some point, we're going to stabilize, and people will find, again, balance between when it's appropriate to use AI, when it's not. Because you can do everything doesn't mean you need to use it all the time. So that kind of, adjustment will eventually happen. So I'm not really worried about, oh my God, I'm competing with AI artists. What should I do? They are, putting 100 pieces a week and I'm putting one piece a month. I'm not worried about that because I'm not competing with those guys. I think my niche is different. My journey rests in a different path. And hopefully people appreciate that.
And then that's sort of to tie it back with NFTs. The NFTs also give you that uniqueness that AI, I mean, with a sort of abundance of pictures that will explode, you can sort of prove your scarcity, your unique artwork, that it's a real Mauricio Pommella, among all the other stuff out there.
Exactly. Well, I see a trend with AI art that platforms are adapting, and I saw that on Super Rare, for example, where they will allow you to mint large amounts of one-of-ones. So as an AI artist, you can create like 100 new one-of-ones, and you can mint those 100 in one batch.
Yeah.
So they are now preparing themselves to deal with large volumes of art and large amounts of pieces to be tokenized. So what are the mechanics behind that? Should the artist mint every single piece, or they leave those costs to the collector? And how to put everything at once live? So the platforms are adjusting for that because of the rise of AI, right? So to me, I think eventually I'll dive into AI injecting into my art as well. I think it's a matter of time, but I just want to finish the archetype collection first. I don't want that collection to be contaminated for now.
Yeah.
Eventually, I'll come maybe with a pure just AI art by Mauricio and so on. But I need to finish my mission, and that's where I am focused at the moment. Meanwhile, testing, using tools as well, but primarily for commercial work, dealing with my clients, right? Dealing with like in the commercial side of things, that's great because you can create your style frames, mood boards, provide hundreds of options to your client.
Yeah.
You can go for workshops with them. They're gonna say, "I love this, I hate that." Then you take your team, you channel into another path. So that's been great. So.
And I think for people who are sort of visionary or are born storytellers or with a rich imagination, they it's like you can go wild with AI, right? I mean,
Yes,
it's sort of a different palette or canvas that you can paint with.
Exactly. I think I have met a lot of creative people that don't necessarily have the talent to develop a particular craftsmanship. They cannot illustrate like I'm doing here in the background, but they have great ideas. And those ideas now have the chance to become something tangible through AI, through the prompts, and they can become the editor. I think the secret with AI work is that you are the final editor. You are putting there your knowledge in storytelling, in aesthetics. You can say, this is good, this sucks, this output is horrible, this output is fantastic. So you are still the one in charge. You are the editor. You decide which pieces will be minted or trashed and so on. The AI cannot do the whole work. It is necessary to have your experience, your knowledge, your baggage from years of experience studying and learning, and then deciding what is worth it, what is not. So humans are still have to be around.
And I think also from a psychological standpoint, it will be very interesting what that sort of abundance or overload of imagery will do with the human psyche. Right?
Exactly.
I have no idea. Right? For example, if you ever done psychedelics or something, and you get this sort of explosion of imagery that sort of bombards your senses.
Unlocking your sensors.
Yeah. So the question is, can you deal with that? Like, can you really function or operate, in a setting like that?
Exactly. I don't know. Overloaded, information overload.
Yeah, that's all. The information overload's already here, but
That's
overloaded next.
That's why also, Nick. Another thing you're making me think. I like to have breaks. My life is not always computers and art and design. I like taking breaks. I live in Vancouver. I can go for some paddleboarding or snowboarding. I need to go to the mountain or I need to go to the ocean. I need my break. I need to pause. I need to touch some grass, disconnect, recharge, and then come back fresh with new ideas and inspired. But it's really important to have your breaks and understand your body and stay healthy, stay happy. I think to create is necessary. You have to be at peace. If you have too many problems at home or at your job, for me, when I'm going through some crisis, is when I'm doing zero creative work. I need to go through those crises, fix what has to be fixed, and then I can come back at peace to create. If I'm troubled, I don't work well. So
you have to stay in balance. I actually did a write-up of Charles Baudelaire, and he wrote a piece on the man of the crowd. And if the man of the crowd is completely bombarded all the time with the changing environment of modernity, then he loses his balance, and he has to sort of separate himself in order to digest it all and to distill it all into these pieces of art that he makes. And I think you're completely right. I think that's super important, and not just for artists. I think for every human being, especially these days. I do it myself. Now and then I just think, okay, I'm going too fast. I need to slow down. Otherwise, I run into a brick wall.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I want to thank you for this amazing conversation. I really enjoyed it. I think we covered everything that we needed to cover. if you ever want to come back, I would love to have you back on. And,
anytime. It's a pleasure. I loved your invite, and I've been participating in some spaces, chatting with some friends, some good friends that we have, some friendships we have created along the way. But very rarely being invited for some interviews or kind of these kind of video casts following this format. So if you need me for any other things, any other discussions in crypto or whatever, I'm in.
That's awesome. I would love that. And yeah, again, thank you for being on the show. I love your art. I have a deep passion for illustration, and especially as detailed. I actually do a little bit of illustration too. I'm not like yours, but
send me a DM. Send me a DM with your stuff. Would love to see that.
I will.
Amazing.
I haven't NFT'd anything yet, but who knows?
Awesome. I would love to take a look.
Okay.
All right, Nick.
For everybody watching, thank you for watching. We hope to see you soon, probably tomorrow, and take care.
All right. Thanks so much.